Dear finance professionals and students, welcome to podcast of FCA Deepak Rao, a practicing chartered accountant. Weekly digest for week 2 of April 2025. With 80 to 85% of the country's needs for medical devices currently being met through imports, both the Indian government and medtech manufacturers are looking to accelerate projects to indigenously develop high-end equipment. Taking steps towards this, the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, last month announced its plans to install the country's first indigenously developed 1.5 Tesla magnetic resonance imaging machine by October this year. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs' proposal to widen the scope of the present rules of mergers and amalgamations to include more unlisted companies and subsidiaries of companies that are not wholly owned under the fast-track mechanism will reduce the compliance burden and boost agility of startups and micro, small and medium enterprises. By bringing unlisted subsidiaries, fellow subsidiaries, and low-debt companies into the ambit of quick approvals, the government is clearly addressing industry demands for ease of doing business, post-pandemic corporate restructuring, and group-level consolidations. Greenline Mobility Solutions, a logistics firm backed by the SR Group, is raising $275 million in equity from a group of investors, including Nikhil Kamath, co-founder of online stock trading platform Zerodha, at an undisclosed valuation. The Mumbai-based firm, which currently operates a fleet of 650 LNG trucks in India, aims to scale up to 10,000 heavy-duty vehicles over the next few years, powered by liquefied natural gas and electricity. The $1 billion fresh investment reflects Greenline's ambition to offer greener logistics alternatives to Indian firms. The long-standing confusion surrounding the Section 87A rebate claims has reared its head again. Despite revising their income tax returns in January 2025, as per the Bombay High Court's directive, numerous taxpayers, primarily those with total incomes below ₹7 lakh, are now being served demand notices by the Income Tax Department. These notices, issued under Section 143 subsection 1 of the Income Tax Act, disallow the Section 87A rebate for income taxed at special rates, such as short-term capital gains taxed at 15% under Section 111A, even when claimed within the permitted revision window. Several chartered accountants confirmed that they are assisting clients in filing appeals with the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. The Central Board of Direct Taxes has issued a fresh notification mandating that individuals who are allotted a permanent account number based on their Aadhaar enrollment ID before October 1st, 2024 must update their Aadhaar number with the Income Tax Department by December 31st, 2025. Car-Dekho plans further expansion in the Middle East after its UAE foray. With a 54% revenue growth in financial year 24, the company continues its acquisitions, AI adoption, and aims for an IPO, expecting strong sales recovery by financial year 26's second quarter. The group has also been active on acquisitions. In the last 2 years, it has taken over around 6 companies. They are currently in advanced talks with 2 more companies. Public sector banks are recalibrating their deposit schemes in response to improved liquidity and the RBI's recent repo rate cut. While some banks like Bank of Baroda and SBI have reduced rates or withdrawn schemes, others such as Indian Bank and IDBI Bank are extending their special deposit offers for a limited period, adjusting to the evolving financial landscape. Securitization volumes in financial year 25 rose 24% to reach a record rupees 2.35 lakh crore, powered by significant deals from private sector banks and NBFCs, according to a CRISIL report. Key contributors included HDFC Bank with a surge in bank share. Major asset classes were vehicle and mortgage loans, while microfinance and gold loans declined. Tata Group is preparing to raise $1.3 billion for its digital assets Big Basket and 1mg to compete more effectively in quick commerce. The fundraising will support Big Basket's shift towards quick delivery and 1mg's expanded healthcare services, backed by Tata Digital's aggressive growth plans. The Finance Act 2025 inserted a second proviso in Section 80 CCA subsection 2 to exempt the withdrawals made by individuals from NSS on or after August 29, 2024. The exemption shall be available to the following: A. To an individual investor only, and B. For withdrawing any amount standing to the credit of the individual under NSS with interest accrued on such amount. Since the withdrawal from the NSS account is not subject to tax, the Central Board of Direct Taxes has notified that no tax shall be deducted at source under Section 194EE on payment of the amount standing in the credit of the assessee under NSS, in respect of which deduction was allowed under Section 80 CCA. The IBBI has notified the IBBI Insolvency Professionals Amendment Regulations 2025. As per the amended norms, the IBBI has now extended the time to pass the limited insolvency examination from 12 to 24 months for registration as an insolvency professional. An individual shall be eligible for registration as an insolvency professional if he or she passed the limited insolvency examination within 24 months before the date of his or her application for enrollment with the insolvency professional agency. The RBI has been conducting public awareness campaigns across various media platforms, including text messages, television, and digital advertisements under the RBI Kehta Hai initiative. The RBI is now further expanding its outreach by adding WhatsApp as an additional means to deliver public awareness messages. This initiative aims to ensure that vital information reaches people in a simple, direct, and effective manner, strengthening trust and resilience in our digital financial ecosystem. Credit growth for micro and small businesses has decelerated, while medium-sized firms experienced a rise. Loan disbursements have moderated in 2024, with businesses increasingly relying on short-term working capital loans. Despite this, a significant portion of MSMEs have resumed operations post-pandemic, demonstrating strong growth momentum. Bulge bracket private equity funds are increasingly investing in single specialty Indian hospital chains that present a robust growth potential in emerging consumer centers, significantly widening the addressable market beyond their traditional metropolitan bailiwicks. Non-metro locations such as Lucknow, Vizag, Jaipur, Cochin, Siliguri, Guwahati, Bhubaneswar, and Patna, private equity investors believe hold great growth potential in healthcare, in lockstep with an increasingly affordability quotient in Tier 2 or 3 towns and a greater availability of qualified doctors and specialists. The Goods and Services Tax Network has issued an advisory to inform that, effective from 1st June 2025, the invoice reporting portal would treat invoice and document numbers as case insensitive for the purpose of invoice reference number generation. To ensure consistency and avoid duplication, invoice numbers reported in any format would be automatically converted to uppercase before IRN generation. This change is in line with the treatment of invoice numbers in Form GSTR 1, wherein such numbers are already considered case insensitive. MCA has notified draft Companies Compromises, Arrangements and Amalgamations Amendment Rules 2025. The MCA has now proposed to expand the scope of fast-track mergers to include unlisted companies with reasonable debt exposure and no default in repayment of borrowings, as well as a holding company and its unlisted subsidiary companies. Also, mergers of foreign companies with Indian companies are proposed to be included under a fast-track mechanism. Comments on the draft rules may be submitted by May 5, 2025. The brutal market sell-off triggered by US recession fears has cast doubt over the initial public offerings of LG Electronics India and Ather Energy, both of which were slated to debut later this month. Both companies are now considering a delay following a swift shift in the market sentiment amid rising global trade tensions. Home appliance major LG's IPO is estimated at Rs 15,000 crore, making it India's fifth largest, while Ather, an electric scooter maker, has pegged its offer at Rs 4,000 crore. Even as countries like Vietnam and Taiwan signal a willingness to reduce import duties to counter new reciprocal tariffs announced by the US, analysts say India remains better placed to safeguard and potentially grow its contract manufacturing base in smartphones and electronics. The key reason for the same being that India not only faces a lower reciprocal tariff rate under the US framework at 26% compared to Vietnam's 46% and Taiwan's 36%, but it also holds an advantage due to its relatively modest trade surplus with the US. At around $46 billion, the US trade deficit with India is significantly lower than it has with other countries like China, which is at $295.4 billion, Vietnam, which is at $123.5 billion, and Taiwan, which is at $73.9 billion. This gives India more room to maneuver in trade talks. The Reserve Bank of India has directed the board of IndusInd Bank to ensure accountability for accounting lapses that triggered a steep drop in the bank's market value in early March and eroded depositor and investor confidence. Although RBI did not name the bank explicitly during a recent press briefing, Deputy Governor J. Swaminathan said it is standard regulatory practice to initiate forensic audits and accountability reviews in such cases. Those found responsible, internal or external, will be investigated and face appropriate action for the lapses. The Ministry of Finance has issued notification number 30/2025 dated April 7, 2025, announcing a significant update under the Income Tax Act 1961. The CBDT has introduced a new form, ITR-B, to be used for filing income tax returns for block assessments in cases arising out of search and seizure operations initiated on or after September 1, 2024. Taxpayers and tax professionals dealing with search and seizure cases must now ensure compliance using Form ITR-B, which captures extensive details regarding income, assets, expenditures, and tax credits over the entire block assessment period. The Ministry of Finance, through the Central Board of Direct Taxes, has officially notified April 30, 2025 as the last date to file a declaration under the Direct Tax Vivad Se Vishwas Scheme 2024. This declaration must be submitted to the designated authority in accordance with Section 90 of the Finance No. 2 Act 2024. Taxpayers with pending disputes are advised to take immediate action to avail the benefits of the Vivad Se Vishwas Scheme 2024 and avoid further interest or penalties. The Ministry of Finance, through the Central Board of Direct Taxes, has notified bonds issued by the Housing and Urban Development Corporation Limited as a long-term specified asset under Section 54 EC of the Income Tax Act 1961. Investors looking to avail capital gains tax exemption under Section 54 EC for financial year 2025-26 can now consider investing in Housing and Urban Development Corporation Limited bonds provided they meet the notified conditions. This provides a secure and tax-efficient avenue for parking long-term capital gains while contributing to India's infrastructure growth. The Reserve Bank of India on Wednesday released a draft framework for the securitization of stressed assets, aiming to repackage these assets into tradable securities with varying risk profiles. This initiative seeks to create a market for stressed assets, attracting broad investor participation to supplement the current practice where such assets are transferred to asset reconstruction companies under the SARFAESI Act. Audi India has significantly expanded its electric vehicle charging infrastructure across the country, installing over 6,500 charging points as part of its Charge My Audi initiative. This Phase 2 expansion includes a focus on DC fast charging technology and partnerships with 16 new EV infrastructure providers. Baldota Group is set to enter the steel sector with a Rs 54,000 crore investment in Karnataka, aiming for a 10.5 metric ton production capacity. The Greenfield project, expected to be the state's second largest, has received environmental clearance for the initial 3.5 metric ton phase, with plans to expand by 2030, contributing to India's 300 metric ton steel target. As much of the world grapples with a slowdown in the office rental market, marked by declining rents, oversupply, and cautious tenant behavior, India is moving against the tide. Cities like Bengaluru, Mumbai, Pune, and Delhi NCR are not only maintaining their rental momentum but in many cases accelerating it. The contrast is stark. While office rental markets in parts of the US, UK, and Europe have begun to plateau or even soften, India's metros are experiencing double-digit rent hikes, surging occupancy levels, and strong tenant demand. The Reserve Bank of India on Wednesday came out with comprehensive draft guidelines to harmonize and regulate gold loans across all financial entities, including putting a cap of 75% on loan-to-value ratio. The draft guidelines also aim to address concerns related to certain lending practices, provide clarity on specific aspects, and strengthen the conduct-related standards in the sector. Interest rate on home, personal, vehicle loans and deposit rates are set to come down in the coming days, with the Reserve Bank of India's 6-member Monetary Policy Committee's decision to cut the repo rate, the key policy rate, by 25 basis points to 6% in its policy review on April 9th. The rate-setting panel also changed the monetary policy stance from neutral to accommodative, signaling further reductions in the repo rate. KPMG is merging its smaller member firms, especially those bringing in under $300 million in revenue, into larger clusters. Global Chairman Bill Thomas steps down in September 2026, and KPMG aims to complete the restructuring before this. The changes will help the firm stay ahead of evolving regulations, improve efficiency, retain talent, and enhance audit quality. Facing escalating trade tensions with the US under President Donald Trump, the European Union is actively pursuing trade diversification by forging new agreements with countries worldwide. While lobbying for tariff reductions in Washington, the EU is accelerating trade talks with nations in Asia, including India and South America, aiming to offset potential losses from strained transatlantic relations. PwC has concluded its accounting review of IndusInd Bank's derivative portfolio, submitting draft findings to management amidst discrepancies in forex derivative transactions. While the review focused on accounting, Grant Thornton Bharat is conducting a forensic investigation to determine the root cause and accountability for mark-to-market derivative losses. The findings from the PwC report are not currently available in the public domain. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, or ICAI, through its Auditing and Assurance Standards Board, or AASB, has released an exposure draft of standards on auditing for limited liability partnerships, or LLPs. This marks a significant milestone as it is the first time auditing standards will be notified under the LLP Act 2008. Under Section 34A of the LLP Act, the central government, after consultation with the National Financial Reporting Authority, has empowered ICAI to recommend auditing standards for LLPs. Responding to this mandate, ICAI has tailored a dedicated set of auditing standards specifically for LLPs by adapting the existing standards used for companies while making context-specific amendments. GSTN has implemented phase-wise changes in Table 12 of GSTR1 and GSTR1A. For the same, various advisories have been issued time to time which are available on GST portal. GSTN is going to implement Phase 3 of Table 12 of GSTR1 and 1A from April 2025 tax period onwards, which implies Table 12 has been bifurcated into two tables, namely B2B and B2C, to report the summaries of these supplies HSN-wise separately in the corresponding table. Manual entry of HSN will not be allowed. Taxpayer will be able to choose the correct HSN from the given drop-down. The RBI has announced the launch of a theme-neutral application facility under the ONTAP regulatory sandbox framework. Entities can apply with innovations across any technology or theme. Illustrative areas include digital financial literacy, digital lending, eKYC, identity verification, AI, blockchain, ML, smart contracts, tokenization, financial inclusion, and more. Entities interested may submit the application along with supporting documents via email. SEBI, through its FPI Master Circular dated May 30th, 2024, mandated additional disclosures for FPIs and ODI subscribers holding over Rs 25,000 crore in Indian equity AUM. Now, SEBI has revised the threshold under this size criteria to Rs 50,000 crore, easing disclosure norms for entities below the new limit. This podcast is sponsored by Sound of CA. We share because we care. Vande Mataram, Jai Hind.